All right, I got the whale semi cleaned out. Wasn't terrible, no major debris that I could see. I'm being careful not to leave any fibers from these paper towels. They're lintless, but I'm not scrubbing with them. I'm just basically dabbing and blotting. So I'm not gonna leave anything. So I'll clean it out probably with, I don't know, some brake clean or something. And a little bit. So nothing of any concern in there. But on the screen that I took out, it was pretty well filled with a lot of, I don't know, smallish residue. It's grainy, kind of like broken down rubber particles. It's not metal, although there might be a metal content in there, but no, I can break them down further with my finger. So combination, well, there's a little bit of metal there, but the majority is like a rubber compound or rubber particle. Okay, so the EGR cooler I bought was from, or actually through, Rudy's Diesel, but it was manufactured by PPE, and it comes with a complete gasket set for EGR replacement, not just the EGR itself. So you got the intake gaskets and all the various seals required. And then I ordered the oil cooler, also through Rudy's Diesel, and it's an OEM, Ford OEM oil cooler, and it comes with very detailed instructions on how to replace all the gaskets and how to replace the core. And of course you get the complete gasket set and the core. So my next step is to pull the old one apart, pull the core out, replace the gaskets, put the new in, and get ready to go back in the truck. So we'll be back. All right, to get the cover off, you're gonna need a T45, whatever size. I just happen to have a longer one, and a T30, which is right here on my driver. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 T45s, and then 1, 2, 3 T30s. And this is just for this one cover. You also will have to take this off at a later step, and it looks like 2 T30s there. Then once you get this, good grief, get all the hardware removed, then probably gently pry the cover off. I'm going to put these in the new box so I don't lose them. Cover comes right off. So then underneath, nothing drastic except for a gasket. And I can see we got a little bit of a problem right here. It's been crimped. I don't know if that's designed. It doesn't look like it should be. It's got a big heavy crimp there, and it's also kind of chewed up on this one, this end. So I pulled the EGR supply cover off, and the gasket here is pretty deformed also and damaged. It was not damaged just because I pulled it off. It's obviously it's been that way for a while, because it's pretty much set in place. And there were pieces of rubber debris right here on the inside. So that might be what I saw also on the screen inside the oil cooler well. So I think it's definitely time for this to get replaced. So after getting the covers removed, the next step is remove 2 flange nuts. One's here and one's here from the top. Then after you get those, by the way, those have quite a bit of torque, at least mine did, more so than I expected. And then after you get those taken out, you remove 2 from the bottom, which are inset a little bit, so you'll need an extension. And it's the same size, 13 millimeter for all. And then of course we can get that puppy out. So I'm going to use my 3/4 inch impact along with my little sister here and drive this core out, placing the housing on 2 2x4s. And by the way, this is shown in the instructions that this is what you do, so we're having at it. While everything falls off my makeshift little bench here. Yep, there it goes. There we are. Not terrible. And we got the core out. At this point, it's just making sure that I follow the instructions. There's 2 things to note. There's a vent tube and a drain tube or hole. Drain hole is right here. I don't know if you can see it. It's right here. Mine was completely clogged up. And then there is a vent, very tiny vent hole here. Now of course on the bottom it's right here, and that's mine was completely clogged up also, so something to note there. And there's also a what do they call this, threaded insert, which if you look on the bottom of the cover, it's located right here. Sticks up from the top. All you do is press in from the top, and it pops out, and there's a, if I can get it back out, come on, there's an O-ring on it that you need to replace. So we'll be back. All right, well, last week we had a bit of a problem. I was assembling the cover on to the oil cooler, and I got to the point where I was torquing the bolts down, and one bolt just kept on spinning. So immediately I knew what the problem was. Had to take it to a machine shop last Friday. Of course they couldn't get to it Friday, had to wait till today. So we got 2 helicoils put in. In doing so, as I was tightening the last bolt, well, you can guess what happened. It broke. So once again, down to the very last gosh darn bolt. Does it to you every time. All right, here we are back. 2 trips to machine shop so far. 1 trip for 2 helicoils, and the second trip was to extract a broken bolt. So now we're going to try this again. We'll be back. Let's see what this filter looks like. All right, after blotting up the oil, we have very limited debris in there, so I don't think I have anything to worry about. I'm going to go ahead and replace it anyway since I have a new one. I've got some new O-rings also. Back in a sec. All right, well, we got the oil cooler in finally, and I think it's looking good. Got all the bolts torqued down to 16 foot-pounds, and we're on to the EGR cooler at this point, which is right here, still packaged. All right, the next step for me is to clean the intake manifold. I'm just going to give it some degreaser, the old Scotch-Brite treatment, and then on the intake ports on the bottom, that's where it's got the heaviest buildup. I'm going to put just a little light coating of oven cleaner just within, say, 1 inch of the opening, and then I'm going to let it sit upside down. And I'm doing that so the oven cleaner doesn't go up inside and loosen up crap, as I call it, and that could be sucked into the intake later. I just want to clean the opening, that's it. So let's get working on it. Well, I knocked the dust off of it mostly. It's a fair amount cleaner. Did discover some jamoke. Put gasket sealant here and also here. And it's a real bear to take off in that area. It's hard to get a tool in there. So I got to work more on this to clean that up. Alright, well, we got the EGR cooler installed onto the intake. You got two 10mm headed studs, which are significantly shorter than the normal ones that hold the intake in, so you can't miss out. And you got one 6mm. Oh yeah, by the way, these are 6mm diameter, and then one 6mm diameter 10mm head bolt. I think I had to go buy a 1.25 inch. The one I had was missing, and that took a while. Then I had to review my video and find out it was missing to begin with. Alright, and of course we got the bottom all prepped to go on to the cylinder heads with the new gaskets. So we're looking good. And of course we did get a new O-ring installed here. So we'll be back. Okay, I'm getting ready to put the intake manifold back in. Per the instructions on the intake manifold gaskets, the little tab is up and to the inside, right here, here. Pretty much no way you can screw this up. If you put it this way, it's obviously not pressing down to the surface. So that's fairly easy. I've tried it once already with the gaskets on the bottom of the intake, and I put a few bolts in to try to hold it in place, but it was just too much of a struggle. One bolt would pop out, the gasket would fall out, and I ended up just spending way too much time. And so I took it back out to double check all the gaskets, make sure they stayed in place, this one particularly. And I've got to get this off. Get this back on the pipe here. One thing that worked out well, putting grease on this metal gasket on the back, the exhaust, and of course putting the blue connector tube back on prior to putting the intake in. Other than that, we're ready to go. I gotta put the camera down for this one. We'll be back. All right, got it in. Not too much of a struggle. Just lining up the gaskets, verifying that they're in correctly. And this one large rubber O-ring, which is for the it's for the coolant, which is straight down here. You can look underneath here and verify it while you still have a little bit of wiggle room. Make sure it didn't move out of position. Other than that, I think we're good. Everything's good to go. Now it's just slowly crank it down. I've got the torque specs and the tightening sequence printed out, so I'll follow those, and that'll be next. All right, got the intake manifold installed. EGR cooler is installed and torqued. Got the clamp torqued, mounting bolts, and of course we got the intake manifold torqued down in sequence. and all bolts torqued 3 times basically to 8 foot-pounds. Doesn't seem like much, but I guess in unison it's going to hold. So the next step at this point, I'm going to probably spend some time to clean up the wiring harness. There's a lot of wear and tear on it. Maybe rewrap some areas, clean up some oil. That was, well, basically it looks like it's been floating in oil for a while. So I'll try to clean that off. And then I would imagine it's going to be the turbo. Although I might put some, like I said before, I might put some of the wiring harness on first, because everything is just so accessible right now without having the turbo in the way. Yeah, I might try that. If it doesn't work, so be it. I'll figure it out.